been counting down the days to get out. I've been looking for a way from this town. And you're too far away to help me now. So I'm counting down the days to get out. 'Cause I need to learn to forget everything that drags me down. I need to forget everything inside me now.
It is lights out and away we go for the Dutch Grand Prix of 2022. Lando Norris gets away really well. Charles Leclerc does as well. Charles Leclerc is in the second. We're going to go 3-1 at turn 1. Oh, he's in the Mercedes there. I mean, the Mercedes made contact with Hakkinen. Look at Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher makes his way up to 11th. And he's going to go round. He's still on the inside with the halfback. The Mercedes has gone ahead. Mick Schumacher is in the points. And Mick Schumacher is down now the inside of Kevin Magnussen. Mick Schumacher is on fire. But Aiden Jackson now as DRS. Will he go down the inside of the turn 1? He absolutely will. He has a bit of a look, but Lando Norris closed the door. That's his prerogative to do so. Jackson's going to take a Max Verstappen wet line and go round and take the lead. Aiden Jackson with another sensational passing maneuver as our Schumacher is falling. Mick Schumacher, oh no, Mick Schumacher. And that was him off the road. What happened there? Oh my goodness, just when it goes right for him, something else has to go wrong. And all that early excitement I thought at the beginning of this race, it was probably just left and gone home, really. And, that's a mistake more by Mick Schumacher, to be fair. Oh, and Lando Norris is slow. George Russell has made his way up to second. Did Lando Norris fall off the track as well? He's actually fallen behind Charles Leclerc, and it's not. Oh, it's in a place where Hamilton spun last year, if you remember. Past his Carlos Sainz, and that's why, because Carlos Sainz is on the side of the road. A Ferrari engine failure. Aiden Jackson calling a comeback. He's gonna do it. Aiden Jackson's gonna win the Dutch Grand Prix, and the demons of Belgium have been swept away.
Aiden Jackson, that is the Dutch Grand Prix, mate. Oh, you're a star. What a brilliant drive. You know what they call that, mate? They call that redemption. Yes, let's go, boys. Oh, what a car, boys. What a car.
A very good afternoon to you all. Today, welcome to Monza. You will have to excuse the darkness in the room today, but if we open the curtains in the studio, that'd be too bright and you wouldn't be able to see anything. So, it's the Temple of Speed, and it's always had its fair share of feel-good stories. We've had 3 in the last 3 years. Pierre Gasly's win in 2020, Aiden Jackson's win last season, and now Mika Hakkinen scoring his first pole position since the Belgian Grand Prix of the year 2000, which was his 27th of his career. Or should we say had, as unfortunately, Audi's quite frankly poor reliability this season has shown itself yet again as he takes a 10th place grid drop for yet another engine component part change. And as we mentioned earlier on in the year, Mika Hakkinen's engine pool carries over from when he took over from Nico Hulkenberg, as the engine parts are tied to the car and not any specific driver. So that means he has taken at least down to 10th, and his pole has now been inherited by his teammate Aiden Jackson, as Audi were also denied their first ever front row lockout. And that puts Aiden right in the midst of the championship battle between Verstappen and new championship leader Charles Leclerc, as they are directly behind him. But Hakkinen does benefit from another plethora of grid penalties, including Russell, Sainz and Norris, so that promotes him to 8th on today's grid. And we also have a highly anticipated for debut at Williams, as Alex Albon came down with appendicitis earlier in the weekend, and that grants a start to former Mercedes reserve Nick de Vries, and he starts 20th and even he himself was part of the grid penalty pool. On a sadder note, however, we've also learned this week that Mick Schumacher will not be retained by Haas for 2023 after scoring no points so far this season, and squandering a point opportunity at Zandvoort was the last straw. And as expected, with Connorsport's impending arrival over Project Prototype at the end of this year, it seems that Nico Hulkenberg, Audi Sport Ambassador, is going to be their targeted replacement for at least a loan for at least a couple of years. So we have all the ingredients for a great race today, but some very dark clouds are approaching, and we're not talking about the weather or the studio lighting either. Well, good afternoon folks. What Chaos is alluding to is a planned protest at the conclusion of this race against Red Bull, Aston Martin, Williams and even Audi for alleged cost cap breaches. Now, if you don't know what that means, in 2021, F1 introduced a budget cap in an effort to close the performance gaps between the teams by limiting spending on car development across the season, and this includes any replacement car parts, such as front wings. The race driver salaries and the three highest members of each team are exempt, as is marketing. So, for example, if Audi were to enter the technical partnership with Connorsport next season, this would not be covered in the cost cap rules. Now, with Williams and Aston Martin, you'd be forgiven for thinking just why they've been involved into this matter, given that last year they made very minimal performance gains, and the trend has continued into this year. And you could even argue that they've actually gotten worse. Aston Martin are currently on only 14 points. They finished 2021 with 97, while Williams are just on 4, all through Alex Albon, and they ended last year on 23. For added context, Aiden Jackson scored 28 for Haas last season in a car that's considered one of the most uncompetitive in F1 history. That just gives you an idea of how much Aston Martin and Williams particularly have gone backwards. But Williams have actually been already fined $25,000 for a procedural breach in the cost cap, as they failed to submit the mandatory reports by March, which you could argue has opened this Pandora's box, if you will, in the first place, and it's believed that Aston Martin could be in the same situation, and Red Bull and Audi could be in a lot more trouble, as it's believed by Ferrari and Mercedes, no surprises there, that Red Bull went over the 5% threshold to get Max's championship over the line in a blind panic after Hamilton's fight through the field in Brazil in particular, due to a fresh power unit penalty that he took, whereas Red Bull couldn't afford to take that risk to the same effect, as Brazil was the last sprint weekend of the year. While Audi started surging form since their upgrade package in Spain raised some eyebrows at the time, and the other teams now feel that the sudden U-turn on Project Prototype seems very convenient. In my honest opinion though, car's been very decent since the start of the season, and I think all this has more to do with avoiding any conflict of interest regarding the impending Sauber to Audi takeover, and Andrea O'Connor even himself stated recently that it was Connorsport that approached Audi with the possibility of a technical partnership, and it was all done in good faith and not to interfere with Audi's future plans, considering the most likely outcome would have been from Connorsport to take over where Project Prototype leaves off at the end of 2023 with all their own equipment. And this has all been only sped up by Davidoff Butler's intended plans, and that further fuels the speculation that Devon Butler may have already been agreed to be alongside Aiden Jackson next season. The one thing that is to note, however, is that Audi have brought forward their final upgrade package this weekend. Now, in terms of punishment, it's mostly dependent on how much a team goes over the cap, with the more egregious sanctions being a penalty to the team's ATR wind tunnel testing time in the following season. But as we know, Audi's situation is rather complicated. So I would say that if a fine is given, Audi's sports program will have to pay it, and if they do have an ATR penalty also applied, most likely they'll have to serve that in 2026, whereas Red Bull, on the other hand, will serve their ATR penalty, if given, next season. The most real serious offences could face disqualification from the year of the breaking of the cap, so in 2021, Red Bull would be disqualified immediately, and Audi could be disqualified from this season, but I feel it's very unlikely that that will happen, and even if it does, it won't affect the Drivers' Championship, and Max Verstappen will still retain the title for 2021 because it's purely a team infraction, much like Spygate was in 2007 when McLaren was removed from the Constructors' Championship, but Alonso and Hamilton kept their points. So as a result of all this blowing up, the FIA have called teams to an emergency hand-in of all their accounts prior to the Singapore Grand Prix, and this will be mandatory. The FIA will check over every team and apply penalties if any. So we'll know more then and bring you any more on this story as it currently develops. For now, let's focus on the racing and hope for another Monza Classic, starting with this lap on board Charles Leclerc in the Tifosi's beloved Ferraris. Simply put, this is called the Temple of Speed for a reason. Italian Grand Prix has been home of many fairy tale stories. Just recently, of course, in 2020, Pierre Gasly picked up his first win, and last season Aiden Jackson picked up his. Well, it's not much of a chance of that today, but given the unpredictability in this 2022 season, and this place, you never know what's bound to happen. It's round 16 of the 2022 Formula 1 season, the Italian Grand Prix commentary is, of course, from Aaron Henwood. Thank you, Chaos. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the very aptly named Temple of Speed. If speed is what you desire, you have come to the right place. The game Need for Speed would be very aptly kind of used here. And, well, as we said, or as Chaos said rather, it is a shrine for fairy tale stories. But unfortunately here this year, we were denied a third in successive seasons, because unfortunately Mika Häkkinen scored pole position for this race, but as the unfortunate matter, as we just said, he picks up a grid penalty. 11 corners, 2 DRS zones, and about 90% of a lap on full throttle. That is Monza in a nutshell. It doesn't need explaining. Keep an eye out for debutant Nick de Vries, who's standing in for Alex Albon today. Let's go for the grid from the back. Nicholas Latifi and Kevin Magnussen are starting in the back due to another plethora of grid penalties. De Vries has finally his first F1 start. He's 20th alongside George Russell, who took a penalty as well, as did Esteban Ocon. Lance Stroll is going from 17th. Lando Norris had a position in 16th, but of course he had a penalty to serve. Valtteri Bottas is alongside him. We've got Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher, 14th and 13th today. I think Schumacher equals his season best this year. Alongside Carlos Sainz and Sebastian Vettel on row 6. Into the top 10 we go with Zhou Guanyu and Pierre Gasly, the most unlikely candidates. Mika Hakkinen will start from 8th after taking a grid penalty after scoring pole position. And alongside Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton is in 6th alongside Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso continues to impress in qualifying lately. He goes 4th today alongside Charles Leclerc. And on the front row of the grid, it is one of the most anticipated battles we've waited all season for. Are we finally going to get today? It's Max Verstappen and Aiden Jackson. Aiden Jackson rather inherited this one because Mika Hakkinen has been very much ahead of him for most of the weekend, but it's been very close between those two. But like we said at Zandvoort, don't count Mika Hakkinen out of this race yet. We know he is a fighter for the field. And with the new engine unit, that might aid him even further. Because in Zandvoort, he obviously didn't have to run one, but now he does. And as we said, with the engine pool, it is tied to the car, not the driver. So Mika Hakkinen has the unfortunate distinction of taking over from Nico Hulkenberg and all the penalty, all the engine units that Hulkenberg kind of went through in the opening stint of the season. And he took 2 grid penalties in a row, or had 2 engine blow-ups back-to-back in Imola, Miami, and pretty much hasn't been able to recover in terms of grid position since. And now Mika Hakkinen is sadly having to carry that on. But don't count him out of this one. And as we said, keep an eye out for Nick De Vries. He's standing in for Alex Albon after Alex got a bout of appendicitis earlier in the weekend and has been forced to withdraw. We wish him a speedy recovery as he rests and hopefully could be ready for Singapore Grand Prix, but if not, then Nick De Vries will gladly stand in again. It's been a long time coming for Nick De Vries, the I think it was the 2020, I think it might have been 2019, wasn't it? 2019 F3 champion, and then later in 2020 that was Mick Schumacher. Finally, Nick De Vries gets a shot. Don't forget that he could have been in the Mercedes if rumours of Lewis Hamilton taking a sabbatical after that titanic 2021 season, which ended in rather controversial fashion. If Hamilton was looking to take a sabbatical, then Nick De Vries probably would have been a most obvious choice for replacement alongside Stoffel Van Dorn and Aiden Jackson. But fortunately for us, we still get to witness one of the greatest on the grid. And here they come, the 5 red lights for the Italian Grand Prix. And they're over a very long time, but it's lights out. And away we go for the Italian Grand Prix of 2022. Max Verstappen looks to have got a great start. Aiden Jackson, look at Charles Leclerc. We're going to go 3 wide into the first chicane. We had 4 wide a few seasons ago. And Charles got off. Charles Leclerc's gone off the road, and it looks like everyone is jostling for position. There's another car off the road, I think. That's Charles off the road. That's Aston Martin. It's all sorts of carnage. I think is that De Vries back there? Is that the TV? Lando Norris stopped. Kevin Magnussen has avoided the carnage, and De Vries is off. And is Nick De Vries off the track, and there was all sorts of carnage, and through it all, Max Verstappen has led, and it's an awful start for Charles Leclerc. He's now down in 11th place, he's outside the points, and in Zandvoort, he took the championship lead. It looks like Max could be taking that back. Look who's second. Fernando Alonso, and Sergio Perez is up to 3rd. And here comes Mika Hakkinen alongside Aiden Jackson as well. Hakkinen has definitely been ahead of Jackson in both points this weekend. He's ahead again. Now, was that choreographed perhaps? Because it did look relatively simple. Jackson maybe giving advantage to his teammate there to go and chase those ahead. Of course, Hakkinen has a fresher power unit than Jackson does. Jackson's probably carrying one over from all the... Well, he got a new one in Spa, didn't he? And then the engine part, the MG UK broke. So I'm not sure what that meant for Zandvoort, but he could be running some relatively older parts than Hakkinen is. We've got Hamilton coming into the pits. Now, what's that for, do you think? Was there contact with Lewis Hamilton? Yes, there was. And he is changing that front wing. So absolute carnage on the first lap. Leclerc went off, De Vries went off, Latifi went off. I think one of the Aston Martins was off as well. I couldn't even keep up. Lando Norris had stopped at one point as he tried to avoid it. And what was that all caused by? Charles Leclerc locked up and missed the first chicane completely. I hope we get a replay, which we will. And we're going to look at Charles Leclerc then. So I think Leclerc got the better of the start of the front three. Jackson's bumped down a little bit, but he's better than Verstappen. Leclerc tries to take an opportunity down the middle here, and he locks up. He locks up and misses the chicane. Well, he didn't miss it. He did miss it completely, but he was able to go. Oh, he went over the sausage curve. That's not going to. That's not going to be good for his car. His underbody could be damaged on that. We'll have to see if the team check the floor. But that's a terrible situation for Charles Leclerc. Then the current championship leader by a point. Here's the start from Jackson. Now, was he kind of not at fault, but part of this? Well, he does. It is the slightest of contacts on the rear wheel there of Charles Leclerc. I wonder if that had something to do with it. I don't think you can blame Jackson for it. It's what's the word? Common first lap kind of carnage. Of course, in the year 2000, we had a very similar situation for Eddie Irvine, who missed the chicane completely and was involved with both salvers of Salo and Deniz as well. And here's the start from the TV's perspective. He already gets the better here of Nick De Vries, his new teammate, standing in for Alex Albon this weekend. George Russell there tries to go over. Latifi is boxed in by Ocon, and it's just absolute carnage at the first corner. Total carnage, really, as Martin Brundle would say. And I think Norris had to stop too. How we all got through there with very minimal damage, I will never know, to be honest. Lewis Hamilton was the unlucky one. I don't think we've got a replay of that. Norris has to get out of the way of the Alfa Romeo. Back to the racing action, and look at this! Mika Hakkinen going 3-1 with Alonso and Perez, and they all got through somehow. Perez has to go over the chicane. That's going to kind of compromise his exit. Will Mika Hakkinen move into second? Yes, he will. Mika Hakkinen is going for second then in this race, and it looks like he's going to get ahead of Alonso. And Mika Hakkinen, well, if Aiden Jackson did let him through, it was an inspired decision by him to do so. Hakkinen takes second. Now, 4 seconds between him and Verstappen. We'll have to see if the Audis have the pace of the Red Bull. We've known for most of the year that they kind of have, because Jackson has been locked in combat with Perez for most of the beginning of the year. It's not really been the case since, but we might have another bout of it today. Here's Mick Schumacher in 11th place, getting 2 positions off the start. One off Lewis Hamilton pitting, most likely. And who is he ahead of there? He's ahead of George Russell. I think he started ahead of him anyway. So who's he beaten there? He might have beaten Ocon. Lando Norris was further down too. So the losers at the start, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton. There is Perez, I think. Is it Perez? It's Ricciardo making a move on Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc already trying to get back through the field. He's already into 8th, but Charles Leclerc's been flying on these opening laps. He was down in 11th at the end of the first lap. He's already made his way to 8th, so Charles Leclerc is quickly dispatching of somewhat slower cars ahead of him. This is Zhou Guan Yu on Charles Leclerc again, so Zhou Guan Yu's not going to give this up. We've got Ferrari versus Alfa Romeo here, 2 of the most famous motorsport brands in Italy battling against each other. We certainly didn't envision that at the start of the weekend, and Zhou Guan Yu does get ahead of Charles Leclerc. So maybe Charles is somewhat feeling the effects of that underbody damage that probably has hindered his car after going over the sausage curbs in the first chicane due to that carnage. I'm surprised he didn't really take to the escape road on that, but he probably would have inherited the lead and have to give it back anyway. So that's maybe why he didn't. Maybe if he went that way, he wouldn't have to give back so many positions, because he probably would have done, because it was a straight line. And, well, the jury is out on whether Aiden Jackson was kind of the reason for it. I don't think so, to be honest. It did look like the faintest of touches, but maybe it did unsettle the car a little bit, and that will force Charles to have a snatch some brakes. I think he snatched the front brakes more likely, so maybe that was the reason. But I'd like to see that again if we do get a replay, because I think that's what we need. We're going to have a look at Aiden Jackson here. This is a move he did on Perez, so the Audis are now moving to the field as well. Aiden Jackson making easy work of Sergio Perez, to be honest, which is rather surprising. And now he's going to do the same to Fernando Alonso as well in the same corner. And, well, here comes Aiden Jackson. Now, this is going to be very interesting. What are Audi going to play here? Because this is a very favourable position for them. We have not seen the Audis both in the top 3 all season long. It's been mostly Jackson at the front, battling with the front runners. Hulkenberg didn't really get a shot to do so because he had to take a plethora of grid penalties. We got Alonso getting out of shape in that corner. That might give aid to Perez and Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo, and this might all this titanic battle might help Charles Leclerc out and catching them. Carlos Sainz around the outside of Fernando Alonso, not going to get through there. Daniel Ricciardo's going to take advantage and maybe take Alonso with him. And, well, we might not see Daniel Ricciardo on the grid next year, but he's certainly making a statement to maybe some other teams that maybe want to sign him. I think the only possible option now is AlphaTauri. And that probably would be the most logical option, to be fair. As Daniel Ricciardo goes down the inside, he could take Perez as well. Daniel Ricciardo is fighting hard over 4th place. And look at that, Charles Leclerc has immediately caught up to the back of his teammate. Now, Ferrari are going to enforce team orders there and let Charles Leclerc immediately through. They might have to. It would be the most logical sense. George Russell has passed Mick Schumacher. Probably no surprises there, to be honest. So we know that Mick Schumacher is off the grid for 2023. With Zandvoort really being a golden opportunity for some points, and he pretty much squandered it, sadly. And that was the last straw for Haas, and he will not be retained for 2023. Every expectation is that Nico Hulkenberg will take over. And, of course, he is still on the Audi board, not board, but he's the sport ambassador as they charge towards 2026 on exactly the same roadmap they started. Project Prototype looks to be coming to an end by the end of this year, with Connor Sport rapidly approaching and picking up where they left off. And my goodness, where could Audi end up in this year at the moment? Because they're going to get a bucket full of points today. Mika Hakkinen in 2nd, Aiden Jackson 3rd, and they're both pulling away from Sergio Perez. In fact, Jackson has now pulled out a 4-second gap to Perez. So the Audis definitely have some pace this weekend, and they've certainly showed it with Mika Hakkinen and Aiden Jackson locking up the front row for all of about maybe a minute before Mika Hakkinen's grid penalty was applied. He went down to you saw him in 8th. He was actually 10th, but I think that's because Lando Norris and George Russell and Carlos Sainz all had to take grid penalties themselves. So Hakkinen would have been 11th had he scored that pole position. Well, he did score the pole position. He scored the pole position and got dropped down 10 places to 11th, and then gained 3 off those grid penalties. Grid penalties definitely becoming a common occurrence as the second half of the season is approaching, so we could end up with some even more mixed up grids later on. So Max Verstappen leads from 4 seconds from Mika Hakkinen. Mika Hakkinen right back towards the front here. And, well, the Italian Grand Prix has not been a happy hunting ground for Mika Hakkinen. We all remember in 1999 that infamous crash that Mika had suffered, and that pretty much gave the win to Heinz-Harald Frentzen on that day. Mika Hakkinen was very emotionally, well, not distraught, but he was certainly emotionally hit hard. Very much, almost pretty much in tears in the forest away, and that was a very infamous moment. But fortunately for Mika Hakkinen, he didn't let his standard drop and still took the 1999 championship, although it was a close run thing, and almost Michael Schumacher had a say in it, a very late say in it, with that infamous comeback from his broken leg in Malaysia. It could have been so different though, had both Ferraris been kind of held up the disqualification that they initially had at the Malaysian Grand Prix. Hakkinen could have been the champion with a round to spare. But they were reinstated, and the battle went to the final round, in which Mika Hakkinen dominated proceedings and won the Japanese Grand Prix back-to-back in 98 and 9, taking both titles in the process. Exactly a year later, Michael Schumacher scored his 3rd. Today, Mika Hakkinen very much in second and has the legs of Aiden Jackson. He's had the legs of Jackson so far this weekend, but it's been very close between the two. But right now, Hakkinen is still a second clear. Charles Leclerc is absolutely flying. He's now up to 6th and right with Fernando Alonso. And we were thinking that Max was going to take a big championship lead of what would be about 24 or so points. But right now, it's not going to be the case because Charles is flying at this pace. He can pretty much catch second before the pit stops. He's already dispatched with Alonso now. Now he has to chase Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, sorry, and then the two Audi ahead. So, Mick Schumacher is now up to 10th, according to this. And, well, Mick's had a very strong showing in the last couple of races. No, he's not 10th, he's 11th, sorry. I think he was 10th for a moment, I thought he was. But he's actually up to 11th. So Mick Schumacher actually is holding on rather well just outside the points here, which could be rather interesting. We haven't seen this for a while. In fact, I don't think we've seen it much at all since Bahrain, when Nico Hulkenberg finished ahead of Aiden Jackson, although, to be fair, Jackson fallen to the back of the field on lap 1 after a spirited fight back. But today, Mika Hakkinen for the first time since these two teamed up at Audi, Hakkinen for the first time actually has the legs of his very much younger teammate Aiden Jackson. But that is the skill and the championship skill of Mika Hakkinen. And today, Mika is showing Jackson maybe a thing or two, you'd think. I think the Audis will pretty much be free to race, but they do have 4th place of the constructors to think about. I would say that if Mika Hakkinen and Jackson do finish in these positions, I think they're going to be carving quite a chunk into the teams ahead of them, namely Ferrari. Well, namely Mercedes, actually, because neither Mercedes is scoring points, while George Russell is up to 9th. Mick Schumacher now back into 10th. Mick Schumacher is on it today. And once again, he's locked up. And Mick Schumacher, well, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. But he locked up in the chicane, there's a lost position. That's quite unfortunate. And well, I think Mick Schumacher will probably just be happy to get this year over with. It's not really been the big jump in performance that, well, some people expected. But that is mostly due to the car. Although the car is a whole sight better than it was last season. It was pretty much a confined back marker for the most part. And like we said, only Aiden Jackson's superb talent got them the points that they did. Even though Monza was a crazy race, Aiden Jackson, well, the race just fell into his lap, but he didn't do it without passing cars, did he? You know, he passed a couple of cars on his way to the front, but of course it was a double safety car because both Red Bulls crashed out in the latter stage of the race. Schumacher is still locked in combat with Tsunoda and Ocon. He's not giving it up, is he? You've got to admire Mick Schumacher. Certainly not giving it up today. But Kevin Magnussen in 16th or 15th, doing rather well. Actually, an honourable mention to George Russell here. I've only just picked up on this, but George Russell's 8th. He started from the back of the grid, more or less. I think he was just ahead of De Vries on the grid. He's now P8. But of course, we had that lap 1 carnage with everyone falling off the road. So it felt like sometimes. And we've got some more battles now. George Russell is actually going for 8th position with Carlos Sainz. He was there earlier, so Sainz is actually taking that position off George Russell now as the Ferrari C-spec power unit starts to stretch his legs. Although Charles Leclerc is not making inroads to the lead of Sergio Perez has. It's still about 6 seconds between those two. No, it's 2 seconds. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong people there. Lewis Hamilton down at the back after a pit stop. He actually has caught up to Nicholas Latifi and Nick De Vries ahead. So he's caught them up. But he probably needs a safety car to bunch the field up. Because some of the field, namely the Audis and Verstappen, have pretty much got away now. It's a clear trap for Max Verstappen. A lead of 5 seconds between him and Mika Hakkinen. Sadly, it doesn't look like Mika Hakkinen is going to be on his first win since the United States Grand Prix of 2001. And that's really unfortunate as Aiden Jackson comes into the pits. The first of the leaders to pit is Aiden Jackson. Now this will be interesting. I wonder if he's trying to undercut Hakkinen maybe. Max Verstappen is also in. So Mika Hakkinen now leads. And well, what a turner. Mika Hakkinen was 8th on the grid. Guess what? He leads the Italian Grand Prix. His first laps led since 2001 for Mika Hakkinen. What a sight this is. Let's just take this in a moment. Oh my. Now, let's hope here that Mika Hakkinen doesn't have to pit. Because Max Verstappen pitted and probably crossed the finish line before he entered his pit box, he led the previous lap. I'm thinking, because Audi is further down the garage, or the pit lane as it were, maybe Mika will cross the line and lead the lap even if he does pit. So we really need to be watching Mika Hakkinen right now rather than Aiden Jackson, because I want to know if that's the case right now. Jackson is coming up to really much some cars that haven't pitted yet, including Mick Schumacher is now at 8th, but of course they have to pit. I'd like to... Oh! And that's Jackson going off because Vettel and Ricciardo were battling side by side there, and I think that may have caught Aiden Jackson out a little bit. But now he's down the outside of Lando Norris, who probably is still to pit himself, and Jackson goes for 10th. And Mika Hakkinen did pit, and I believe he may have crossed the line before Verstappen passed him. So Mika Hakkinen has led his first lap since 2001, and he's actually going to come out ahead of Aiden Jackson, which is interesting. So even though Jackson pitted first, Hakkinen came out ahead. So a good lap there from Mika Hakkinen to stay ahead of his teammate who pitted first. And this has jumbled up the order a bit. Max Verstappen now leading by 7 seconds. He is pretty much checked out at the front then. Now, what are Audi going to do? Are they free to race, or are they going to hold station until the rest of the Grand Prix? Because they've got a somewhat kind of not comfortable lead, but certainly a good one over Sergio Perez. So will Aiden Jackson have to play backup to Hakkinen? Because as we said, over the weekend, Hakkinen has certainly been level, if not ahead of Jackson, for most of the weekend.
Okay, what's the play here, guys? FTR, baby. Repeat. FTR. Copy.
FTR, free to race then. Aiden Jackson, he's actually closing on Mika Hakkinen then. So that's why he's asking, are we free to race? Because I'm catching him. And yes, you are. So, here we go then. Mika Hakkinen versus Aiden Jackson for the first time since this partnership was formed back at the French Grand Prix. And Jackson has DRS now, so I think that's why Audi have made that call. FTR is free to race, I assume, as Hamilton is into the pits for Mercedes. A pretty much unscheduled first stop has probably put Hamilton very out of sync with the rest of the field, unfortunately. Well, we haven't been able to see this all season. We may have seen it in Bahrain if the race had gone any longer. Because, of course, Nico Hulkenberg was nursing his engine, while Jackson was absolutely actually just tearing through the field, for lack of a better phrase. He was actually just completely in the zone, as it were, passing everyone for fun. We haven't seen the Audis at the front together since, because poor Nico Hulkenberg had a plethora of grid penalties and engine failures for most of the season. Here we go then. Aiden Jackson round the outside. He's been told he's free to race Mika Hakkinen. Now, for Mika, you can put a lot of trust and faith that Aiden Jackson will not take him out, and he certainly hasn't. And there we go then. It is not, he didn't make it easy, but Mika Hakkinen is now coming back with no DRS enabled on his car. Oh my! And well, if Audi have taken some rear wing off Hakkinen's car, that certainly aided him there. And as you can see, Jackson is going over the curves. As we said, there's that trust. But a lot of people have in Aiden Jackson. He will not make contact with you. He will give you all the room you need. Maybe in some cases, maybe not. Well, he'll give you at least the room that the rules have. You know, car's width. He'll give you that at least. He won't give you any more if he can help it. But you always have the trust and the faith that Aiden Jackson will race you clean and not do any kind of rash maneuvers. And Audi certainly have put a lot of faith in Jackson for that. You can do that. So we're going to have a bit of a battle here, folks. This is going to be very interesting. And Hackett is not making it easy for Aiden either. And I think that's what we want to see. Jackson and Hackett, certainly a major of respect between these two for the moment. Giving each other more than enough racing room on that previous lap. And, while all this is happening, Max Verstappen's getting away. He's now at a 10-second lead, but I don't think there's anything more to gain for these two. Maybe they'll have to call it off at some point, because I don't think they're going to gain much by battling each other this close. Although, to be fair, maybe it will, because the car behind has DRS down the straights, and this is a very low downforce circuit. So the fact that Audi is very good aerodynamically is probably going to help Nico in that instance. It's probably what helped him on the previous lap. Even though he had no DRS, the aerodynamics on that Audi have been so impressive in a straight line that these two, you'd think, would probably be pulling away from Perez right now. But Perez has clawed in a little bit of the gap. So we'll have to wonder how long the two Audis can fight each other. There's really no benefit to not allowing them to race. It's not like there's one ahead of the championship with the other. Nick Hagen is obviously not in the championship fight, but neither is Aiden Jackson, to be fair. Jackson a bit further behind Leclerc and Verstappen. He could still get third from where he is. I think he's currently fourth at the moment. Jackson, if results go his way, he could still get third in the Drivers' Championship, which would be very good for his, let's say, coming out season, let's say. We say that because the Haas was a write-off last season, but Aiden Jackson made it work anyway. This is the real talent now that we get to see of Aiden Jackson, like the car that kind of matches his talent. And it's not all talent that it was with Aiden Jackson last season. He has the car to back it up and help him with it. I think I've said that right. I'm not really sure. But it really is the kind of... it is the coming out season for Aiden Jackson. He's certainly proved it this year. 3 wins already this year. Plenty of podium finishes, almost right from the off. And he's had his first retirement in Belgium in his Formula 1 career, but you can't really help that. It was a mechanical failure with the MG UK that depleted the battery. And if the battery depletes, your car is pretty much a sitting duck because of all the ERS kind of technology on these vehicles. You can still run without the ERS system, but you'd be rather, as we said, a sitting duck. Because all the cars around you do have the system that works. So I think even if Aiden was able to keep running, which he ultimately wasn't, he probably would have dropped out of the points, or more or less anyway. And well, you've got to give definite praise to Hakkinen here. He's certainly not making it easy. Aiden Jackson, in fact, he's probably been slightly better than him throughout this race. Even with DRS, Aiden can't get that much closer. It's not a slam dunk pass, which really is testament to how good the Audi is on the aerodynamic front. And I wonder if, well, even though Sport have stated that it will be all their own equipment, they won't be taking any over car aspects from Project Prototype. It's mainly just a couple of personnel members, namely Chris Whiteman, Aiden Jackson, Jeff Nelson, who is Hakkinen's race engineer, and Mark Priestley, who is Aiden's. It's namely those few members that Davidoff Butler could be bringing to the Sport racing team next season. And now Jackson having a slight look at Hakkinen around the outside. He's certainly letting him know that he's there. This is a very snazzy design in Miss Audi. They have decided to keep it for the rest of the season. I really like it. I'm glad that fans voted in there. It was a close run thing. It was about maybe 51 to 49% in favour of the concept design that this Audi is running. Well, 7 laps to go, and Max Verstappen, it's a cakewalk. But who finishes second is still in question. Aiden Jackson still trying to get the better of his teammate here. And Perez is starting to close, as is Leclerc. Leclerc has really made huge inroads on Sergio Perez since the stop. But I think he's done more than enough to claw back what he lost at the start. And after all the stuff at Haas, Kevin Magnussen is now ahead of Mick Schumacher, which proves just how much of a kind of dreary second phase of this race he's had. And on we go. Hakkinen still leading Jackson. But Jackson does look a lot closer this time around. Perez has brought it within 2 seconds now. And harvesting a little bit of energy. You can tell by the blinking red light that the car will be slightly slower as they are recharging the EOS battery. Aiden Jackson now much closer to Hakkinen on this occasion. DRS is activated, but again, Hakkinen has the legs down the straight. Well, who'd have thought? Audi is so good aerodynamically, and usually the DRS makes the aerodynamics on the Audi even more potent, but this is against the guy in the same machinery now. And that's the difference. This man, Max Verstappen, no such issues. He will take back the championship lead at the end of this race, no matter, well, not no matter what. If the positions stay as they are, which they look like doing. Max Verstappen has been bulletproof since he took the lead at the start. Charles Leclerc locking up. And, well, Charles had the better phase at the start, didn't he? As we mentioned. But he went off the circuit. And he's done very well to claw his way back up to 6th. And the question now will be, will he catch Perez? The answer right now is no. It's still 2 seconds. So Perez is actually showing some pace in this ladder stage. And Hakkinen, and Jackson's now taking to the outside with DRS, and this time, surely, it is going to be a pass. And no, it's not. Jackson locked up there in the first chicane. So Jackson making a slight mistake. That might leave him open to now to Sergio Perez now. And with a few laps left, Jackson's fallen a bit behind. And maybe now, Audi may start thinking about maybe telling Audi to call this off, because Jackson's now coming under pressure from Perez. And I think today, for the first time...
Aiden, it's Chris. Team order. Call this off. There's nothing to get ahead. Checo and Leclerc are catching us. Call this off. Copy.
Oh, a word from the top. We don't really hear Chris Whiteman so often on the radio, but that's an order from the top. And Aiden Jackson, well, he knows who's talking. He's immediately going to call this off now, and that's a good move. It's a very good move by Audi and Chris Whiteman. They know the situation. They could get a 2-3 here, but they won't get it if Aiden Jackson is fighting tooth and claw with his own teammate. And here's Mick Schumacher battling with Lewis Hamilton again. He seems to be getting very used to that. And yeah, Aiden Jackson now has completely backed off for this battle now. So he has immediately upheld that order. That is from the top. Chris Whiteman, not that's very firm for Chris Whiteman, but he obviously wants to make sure that his cars finish this race in 2 and 3, and the way they are. So Aiden Jackson acknowledging the team order, and as we said, we don't hear Chris Whiteman a lot, but he certainly made his stance known there. That's very interesting. Well, Jackson is he's certainly not letting Mika get away, if that's something. And I wonder what he's doing. I think really he's just trying to stay in DRS range. I think this might be a team play from Audi here. Hakkinen really just giving his teammate as much DRS as possible. And maybe that's why Aiden is close. Look at that, almost a snap of oversteer there from Jackson in the Parabonica. So not only is that happening, but obviously Aiden is losing grip in his tyres because he's followed Mika for his entire second stint. And look at that, he pulled immediately back in, didn't even want to look there in Jackson, acknowledging the team order from the top. Wow. Chris Whiteman certainly made the right call because Perez has closed right up on them now. So, for the first time this season, Aiden Jackson is having to play the backup role for a change. Well, he certainly knows how to do it. He did it on many occasions for Mick Schumacher last season. Now, and this will be, I'm not sure how many podiums Mika Hakkinen has scored, but he's certainly going to get one today. Now, how good is the Red Bull in a straight line? We're about to find out, and not close enough on that occasion. And it looks Jackson's car looks like it's been in the wars a little bit, with all the kind of scuffs on that car. It looks like it's been in the wars, but Jackson hasn't really hit anything or anybody. Well, for so many times this season, we witnessed the Ferrari C-spec power unit being the best on the grid. I have to say that I think it still might be, but it's certainly not been all dominant for the second half of the season. Looks like most people have caught up. This team here, Audi, have certainly caught up. So much so that they could, well, they're certainly one of the, certainly the other teams are questioning why Audi have had such a surge in form with alleged cost cap breaches. I really don't think. I mean, Audi have the biggest cap, don't forget, as a new team, and this will be the same kind of ruling when Cottesport comes in next season. They will have the biggest cap as the newest team on the grid because they weren't part of this season. So they're taking over assets of this project prototype, but they're not taking over completely. It's not like what Audi will be doing with Sauber in 2026, taking over the whole operation, which probably means they'll take over almost pretty much everything. So, and as we said at the top of the broadcast, if Audi do get hit with an ATR penalty for cost cap breaching, then they will most likely have to serve that in 2026 anyway. I don't think. Well, I honestly don't think Audi have broke the cost cap by that much. I mean, it sounds a bit odd because the Audi was a very good car to begin with, as I said in the studio. Audi has been a decent car from the off, to be fair. And we haven't really heard of much updates from Audi since Spain until this weekend, where their final updates went on the car. So depending on how much those upgrades cost, over those 2 stints. I don't see Audi being in that much trouble. I think it could be other teams just thinking they're overturning on their project. And like that's Pierre Gasly going off. Their winner from 2020 is that's an engine failure for Pierre Gasly then. That's very unfortunate. That promotes Nick De Vries up to 19th, which unfortunately for Williams was probably going to be the highest he was going to get, quite frankly. But that's a good debut for Nick De Vries. He's kept it out of the wars. He was part of that first corner chaos. But more often than not, Nick De Vries, decent debut, kept his nose clean, kept his car out of trouble. And done probably the what was expected of him, to be honest. So good run from Nick De Vries. Considering how late in the day he was called up this weekend. It's a very good effort from him. And certainly a commendable one. Right now, we are on for historic double podium for Audi Sport, I guess. What a moment this will be.
Okay, Aiden, race critical. We are on fumes, mate. We should cross the line, but you're probably going to lose a couple of positions, but we are fuel critical, mate. Oh, copy.
Oh my goodness. Curse of the commentators, maybe. Well, we could have a problem at Audi for one of the cars that could be out of fuel. Max Verstappen wins the Italian Grand Prix, but what is wrong with Aiden Jackson? Is he falling as he is? He's already down to 4th. Jackson's out of fuel, is he? Oh no! Well, is he gonna make it over the line? He might do just. He's lost out to Charles Leclerc. That's crucial in terms of a championship position. Alonso has passed him. Jackson has just about made it over the line. Will he have enough fuel for a sample at the end of the race then? Because don't forget, Sebastian Vettel was disqualified for not being able to provide a fuel sample at last year's Hungarian Grand Prix. Will Aiden Jackson be facing a similar sanction maybe? Is he out of fuel? Max Verstappen takes the win.
Oh, out of fuel, I guess? Well, that's a first. I'm so sorry, guys. You made it, Aiden. That's the important thing. And you defended Mika Werner to get P2, so we're happy here. So well done on a good race, and you gave us a great battle to watch at least, even if no one has any nails left. Copy that.
Wow, what an end. Aiden Jackson crawling over the line, literally on fumes. And we hope for his championship position that he is able to provide a sample at the end of this race and not suffer the same unfortunate fate that befalled Sebastian Vettel in last year's Hungarian Grand Prix. So Max Verstappen, a comfortable win in the end ahead of Mika Hakkinen, a well-earned drive of the day from him. He had the legs of Jackson all through the weekend, and he proved that the holding of position was the right choice from the boss, Chris Whiteman. Sergio Perez third ahead of Charles Leclerc, considering he was out of the points at the end of the first lap. That is a great fight back from him. Alonso for 5th. He's come good at Alpine in the last few races. Ahead of Aiden Jackson. George Russell just missed out on passing him right up the line there. But from 19th on the grid, I think that was, George Russell's done phenomenally well. Followed by Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, and Esteban Ocon gets another point for Alpine. Nick De Vries in 19th. Probably to be expected considering the kind of lack of the performance of the Williams this season, but certainly that's a good debut for him. Once again, we wish Alex Albon a speedy recovery from his bout of appendicitis. So Max Verstappen takes back the lead in the championship by 12 points now. Carlos Sainz and Aiden Jackson are separated. Oh, not by much, is it? I think it's just over about 12 or 13 points. So yeah, Jackson could finish third. Mika Hakkinen in just his 5th or 6th race back, already in the top 10. That is a grand effort. What an inspired signing by Audi, even if it was not really much of the plan to begin with. If you look at the constructors table, could Audi catch Mercedes? It's looking close, isn't it? Ferrari still have the lead in the constructors. It seems like surefire for them, to be honest. But today, Max Verstappen benefited the most from the chaos of lap 1. He led from start to finish and never looked back. But Audi will probably brew. Maybe they underfueled Jackson's car just slightly. But they still got double points. A landmark day for Mika Hakkinen as he's back on the podium for the first time since 2001. Max Verstappen checks back the championship lead. But is Aiden Jackson on the outside looking in? Well, we'll find out. Next is the Singapore Grand Prix amidst cost cap drama. We'll have it all when Formula 1 returns.